All right. Hey, good evening. Welcome to Facebook Live. This is Mike Holmes here at ReachKeep.com, and I'm glad you're on board with us here tonight. Tuesday night, a little bit different. Day after Christmas. Trust you had a wonderful holiday. We did too. Lots of snow, lots of family, lots of fun, lots of people at church. Overall, it was just a wonderful time. So, hey, tonight we're talking about digital. And is your church digital enough to reach new young families? I know it's kind of a provocative question, and I just wanted to kind of get that topic out there because digital is pretty broad, and we're going to go through it in more of a broader sense, give you kind of an overview here of some things we need to work on. Those of you here on Reaching Young Families, you know that our group here is new, and we're all about discussion and all about kind of getting things going so that we can improve on reaching the young families of our community. I think that's part of the Great Commission is that we go out and reach people, and I want to reach young families. I want to reach everybody, and we do. We have them of all ages at our church, and I'm sure you do as well. But when we take time to focus in some areas, that's an important thing. That works well, and that's why we have, a lot of churches have bus ministries, a lot of churches have Sunday schools, a lot of churches have nurseries. Those are all portions of focus, and so we want to do is just take time to focus on how to reach young families. That's kind of our specialty, and that's what we want to spend a little time talking about. I'll get to it here in just a moment. If you're on board with us here tonight, and I can look on this screen and sometimes tell who's here and who's not, and but anyway, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you're watching this on the recording, which is a little bit later, or these go on to YouTube as well, make sure that you give us a share or a thumbs up. We've had quite a few people join our YouTube channel here recently. That is good. The YouTube channel is just YouTube or Reach Keep at YouTube. You just go there and type in Reach Keep, and you'll be able to find it. So I am grateful for every little bit of social share and every little bit that goes on. And as you know, we're kind of experimenting and trying to figure out which of these nights work best and what time it works best for doing some training for y'all. We've done them on Thursday nights and Friday nights and Tuesdays and some of that. So this is a new one, but if you're online with us here, if not, you'll get to watch it on the replay. But I appreciate you being there. If you have any specific questions, you can type those in, and we're really headed for some more specific type questions on the Reaching Young Families discussion group here. Last week we asked the question, what hinders you or what is keeping you from having a boatload of people? I think the living, breathing New Testament church ought to have all sorts of people, and it ought to be filled with people, young families, old families, every kind of family that you can imagine. I think that's really what ought to be there. Don't know. They're not always there in some churches, so we want to try to figure out what is hindering it. It seems like there should be plenty of good things going on, and people should be coming. So anyway, welcome to this. Again, if you take a moment and hit the share button, that would be good, or hit those little buttons that make the little blue, on my screen anyway, they're little things that come flying across here, and I appreciate it when you hit the like button and the wow face and the love and all that kind of stuff. That all helps, and actually I know something about you and something about me too. We're here to help a lot of other churches do these things, and we want to help as many folks as we can to get out there with the gospel and stuff. So when you take time to share, you're really kind of promoting the gospel in a way. You're helping people learn how to do things. So anyway, we sure appreciate that. I want to jump into the whole concept of digital. Is your church digital enough? Okay, and digitized stuff, I mean, it's like a language. I mean, I think some of you know the computer language, the binary stuff, and it really is kind of a language, but it's almost like, are you English enough or Spanish enough? Now, I wouldn't be Spanish enough to serve in some places, that's for sure. I don't know that much of the language. I can eat in a Mexican restaurant. That's about as far as I've gone. I've actually been south of the border and in Central America several times and stumbled my way through. But I wouldn't be a good minister there right now. And we need to learn to be digital enough to minister. And the people that we're trying to reach, they are digital. They far more, and I remember when email showed up. I remember when the internet showed up. I remember when computers showed up. all of that kind of stuff. That is so different than it is now. Our kids, my children, and I have grandchildren, my kids have never not known email. They've never not known the internet. They've never not known digital photography, all those things. They've seen it advance some, and the World Wide Web is, of course, just ubiquitous now. It's everywhere, but they don't know about a time when it didn't exist. So if you are pastoring a church and you are not digital, it's almost like you don't have consonants or you don't use vowels or something. I mean, it's like you're missing out on the language that really is there. Now, obviously, we have to preach the gospel and teach the Bible, and that is our main goal that we have, is just giving those things out. But if we're in the wrong language, if we're speaking in the wrong language, it won't get anywhere. One of the very first laws of teaching is that idea of the language must be similar from the student to the teacher to the student, I should say. You got to speak that same language. And if we don't speak the same language, it just doesn't, nothing happens. And the digital language is what is out there. So there are many, many ways for us to be digital. And again, this is just intended to be broad. And I've got a sheet here, I rattled off about a dozen different things. I'll call it the digital dozen, that you can make sure that you're working on. And then I'll give you a couple tips on how to work on them. And these are all very broad topics, and we are going to cover these individually as well on the Reaching Young Families thing. So when you say, whoa, that's a big topic, yes, some of these are monstrously large topics, and it probably takes several weeks to go through them, but they're all kind of digital. And I want to kind of start with something very broad here and begin to get your feedback. And again, my goal is to get your feedback so that we can help you better. In fact, you can start with something really simple, and you can type this in a little note thing there. Are you watching this on a phone, or are you watching this on like a laptop or a computer? Just, one of those three. A phone, a laptop, tablet, a tablet, I should say, a laptop or a tablet or a computer. I don't have a tablet. My wife has an iPad, but I don't have one, so I always say that wrong. But a phone, a iPad, or a computer, desktop, or whatever. Let me know that in the thing there. That would be great. That's always helpful. Gives us some good feedback. We recently did that survey from our church to see how many people get their primary information off the internet, online, their online information, how they get it off into their heads and hearts, and it's phones, or is it tablets, or is it computers? That's an important thing for you to know, and that's part of this whole digital thing. So let me just give you the topics, kind of some big broad topics, and we'll be covering these a little bit. I'd like to know if how they're working, if this is going good for you, if it's not going good for you. Just kind of let me know this. You can write more details on the Reaching Young Families page a little bit later. And I just want to shout out here to Steve Reynolds. Steve, good to see you. I know we've talked sometimes it seems like to me. The name's certainly familiar, but looks like you got it on your iPad there. So good for you. All right, and it's hard, like I say, I can't always see everything that's on there, but let me read a few of these. Here we go. All right, first of all, social media, very digital, obviously, and this is a very broad topic. Another one, your website. What's your website like? And this dozen is kind of a checklist of how things are going. Do you think you're doing well with your website? Website is probably one of the biggest things that we discuss with pastors when they come in for training, because a lot of their websites are really subpar by their own standards, and they really don't feel good about them, but they don't have the ability to change them, and they're written in something old, and they don't have the passwords, and they're not able to learn how to run WordPress or something like that. So your website, a very important digital area, and evaluation. And again, this is kind of an evaluation thing. Where are you at with social media? Where are you at with this? And think this through for 2018. You're going to try to make some improvements in some of these areas. Texting. This is a very simple one. Probably one of the kind of entry-level digital things. Do you do a lot of texting, and is that texting effective? Now, lots of times we just text between staff or people, but we do a tremendous amount of texting where we have group texts, and we also have personal texts that I just send out to people on Saturday, Friday or Saturday, remind them what the sermon's going to be about, tell them, what's happening on Sunday, invite them to come to church. And I've learned that informed people are happy people, and people sleep with their phones, glued to their head, I think. So yeah, you send them a text and you're pretty well getting to them. That's one of the most highest response things that's there. You can put a website out and no one go look at it for 5 days, but you text somebody, you got them within 5 seconds. So big difference there. Email is another one. Email is very personal, private, and it's theirs. It's not going anywhere. People don't check it as often as they used to. But if you're using that, do you have an email system for doing follow-up emails and some things like that? Number 5 here is church newsletters, which is also on email. And you can do that in a group thing like a MailChimp or Aweber. And we'll get into that in detail and kind of help you. Every church needs to move beyond just doing email in their little, Outlook or, their little contact book or whatever. You want to use a software program. They're free, and they handle, hundreds, if not thousands of emails and give you beautiful looking lists, and you need to get things out to them. And one of the reasons you need to get those out to them is for this purpose. Church today, attendance in church today is different than it was years ago. We don't get people, for every single service. We don't get them, 4 or 5 weeks out of every month. It just doesn't happen. And some of that is just the truth. It's not anything you're going to be able to change. It's not that they're not faithful, but many of them have jobs. Many of them, because we have such a high rate of broken families and divorces and some of those things, they are going to take their kids back on the weekend. They're going to go visit their kids that are graduating or on a swim team and some of that. And that is just such a natural thing for people to do, is to put their family first and go visit. So they're not in town on the weekends as much as they used to be. And also America, statistically, very much more transient than it ever was. People take jobs different places, so there's a lot of travel. There's a lot of travel back and forth. We have many couples in our church right now. Husband's working out of town, wife's still here, back and forth. And we had a guy just off in Salt Lake City for the last 4 weeks doing an electrical job, and he should be back this weekend. We're very excited about it, but he's just been gone. He's at work. So you need to have a church broadcast email that sends out all the information of what's going on in your church. It's digital email, and it's basically like there's a couple names I'll give you. So you MailChimp, like a monkey, MailChimp, and there's another called Aweber, and you can take either one of those and sign up for those. There's like Constant Contact was another one, and you can all use all those at a minimal level for free and be able to get information out to the people, because if they're not here on Sunday, they have no idea what happened, and a lot of our people are here. We run probably 140, 150 people on a service, but we have about 220 to 240 different people came to church last month. And so that's what I'm saying. There's 30-40% of your people need to find out what's going on, and you can do that digitally. Let me give you another one here, messaging, just the idea of using the messaging program that is built into your browser here, or your Facebook. If you use Facebook, I guess you do because you're on Facebook. Anyway, so use that. That's a great one. The other one here, digital photography. Digital photography is a huge part of how we reach and keep and attract young families. We will deal with this very detailed coming up in the future. Our online course teaches a lot about this. It's just got some great stuff. Digital video. And if you look in the feed here, we already had a little discussion about digital video and using screens and having, hymns, how you do hymns and songs with digital video. You can find some of that stuff on there as well. So the other thing here is just the idea of screens, using some type of screen, whether they are static screens, in your church that display information, or they're in the front and some of that. How do you have those hooked up? And if you're using those, a friend of mine just posted, he got a couple new screens on a Black Friday sale, and they got them up for the new year, and he's all excited, and boy, I'm happy for him. I gave him an A+ here today for, being digital and getting those screens up. That's a normal thing for people to see that. In fact, when they go to a place where there is no screens, almost every public place now, that you go has some type of information type, either a kiosk or a running screen of some sort with information or news. Like the airport has all the different things going on. Our McDonald's here has a screen playing in it. All the restaurants have screens playing in them. People are used to that type of stuff. Nothing wrong with putting good information on their Bible verses, and we have a whole thing that we'll teach you on some of that coming up. Let's see, a couple more here. I think I'm up to number 10, autoresponders. Autoresponders are an email function that when we sign them up or put them into our email sequence, they constantly get something going across their email. Like every week they get something a little bit more about the church. Every week it kind of feeds across there. So do you use autoresponders? Are they working for you? Are they not working for you? Before we get to the last couple, and one's kind of obscure and one of them is very popular. Again, take a moment and share this if you would, and if you're catching this on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button and get it out there. The idea of getting this out, this information is so good, and I want to, if you do me a favor, to personally do me a favor, we're trying to invite more people to this group and to reach out and help more people reach young families. I'm in several different groups. We get some discussions going, but I've always wanted a place where I could just really hunker down and do this, and so very very excited about that. So thanks for stuff going too. Appreciate you all. Two here. One is called second to last, number 11, QR codes. QR codes. Are you using QR codes? Those are those little square, dotty looking things that, everybody uses on their, it's kind of like a barcode on the products, or UPC symbols they call them, or when the UPS guy or FedEx people come, they got them on the packages, and poof, it tells you where the info is. Are you using those, and is that working well for you? Is a good question. We have a couple places we've used them. We think they work okay. We're a little rusty on that one. We've got to do a little better tracking on there. And the last one that I had here is just Facebook ads. The whole idea of moving beyond just the social media side of it, but what we call paid Facebook ads. We put out some ads, about $30 worth of ads for our candlelight service, and we had about 30 visitors. Well, maybe probably closer to 40 visitors that I would call first-time visitors. Maybe a couple I've seen around town, but most of them I hadn't. And they came to our candlelight service, got to hear the gospel. It was a wonderful time. So that's kind of the big dozen there, the digital dozen. Here's my three little tips on how to make it work, and take these and run with these. Number one is work on it. In other words, it takes time to create a good contact list and files, and you need to take time to really make sure that your digital connection with all these people. And that's one thing about digital is you can do the broadcast like we're doing here, but you can also just go individual, and you can do that in so many ways. All sure you synced with computer, so they look things up. If you have a computer or iPad, you can contact with, and you won't digital. You don't have their Facebook name or their address. We call it day on how to do cards. You do Facebook names, so right off the with them, our community. So work on, make sure your phone and your computer and all those things are synced up, and all of that kind of stuff is in good shape. The second is to create some what I call digital rules, and that is who's going to primarily take care of what. Who is going to be the person that does the Facebook page for the church? And we have a Facebook page for our Sunday school and a Facebook page for our nursery. Who's the person that posts on there? Who puts that up? I have a sermon group that I correspond with people around the sermon. We do sermon notes and discussion. Who puts that up? My secretary puts some of that stuff up. Sometimes I do. I put questions in and out of there regularly. So all of those things are good. So make sure that you have some kind of an assignment there, create some digital rules about, who's going to do what, how often you're going to do things. We put stuff on our page regularly, just like this page. We put stuff on that page, our church page regularly, our Kid City page, which is our Sunday school, our nursery page. Try to get things up there regularly, parenting tips, things like that. That's some great stuff you can do. But sit down at the beginning of this year and make some new rules for digital stuff. Who's going to do it, when they're going to do it, and what channels that they're doing. I mean, if you're posting sermons, or you're putting stuff on YouTube, or if you're using Pinterest, or some of the other things. Instagram, very popular in some cities. It's kind of catching on out here a little bit. We're a little more rural, as you probably know. But those are all great things that you're going to want to do, is kind of divvy that up. So as you go into 2018, working on this digital dozen, who's going to do the texting, who's going to do the email, who's going to do that. Sit down and really work on that, and make sure that your church is digital enough to reach this new generation. The last tip I have is just this idea of digital downtime, and that is, you got to take a break. You got to get away from it sometimes. So what is your rule for that? Do you have a time when you turn your phone off? Do you have a time when you don't do anything? Does your church have, days when there's zero activity online and some of that? Important thing to kind of get some of that figured out. When's going to be your peaks and your valleys in your digital, reaching out to other people. We do digital assessment for churches. We've helped a bunch of people with that. And if you get our online course, you can get on the online course, we can get you some stuff. So, wow. Hey, thanks for all I just having to look down and see a lot of love going across the screen there. Appreciate all the buttons you've been clicking. Hope this has been good content for you. I'm glad I got to spend some time doing this today. It's the day after Christmas, and my kids went out of town, so I'm kind of like, I got some time. I want to get this done. But thank you very much for being with us here, Facebook Live. Last thing is on the bottom of this screen, or one of the other ones there on the Reaching Young Families, make sure that you take time to answer there's really two questions up there now. One of them is, what's your biggest struggle reaching young families? Is it reaching, keeping them? Some people can't reach them, some people can't keep them. That's what we've had, both sides of that equation kind of come in. And then on this one, where is your struggle digitally? Now, you can't, all 12 of these are difficult to do at once, so just take some time, hunker down on a couple of them, make sure you're in good shape, make sure your social media, your website, so your email strategies are in good shape. But where's the ones where you're struggling? Please leave me a question either in this feedback loop here, or on the regular Reaching Young Families. And every question you ask is being asked by some of the other, dozens and dozens of people that are out there. How do you do that? How do you do an autoresponder? What email program to use? Please ask that question, and I will make sure that we get that information out to you, or we'll direct you towards it. We have a 21-day challenge coming up where we're kind of helping people in 21 individual ways in their church to reach young families. We've got a webinar coming up in February that I've already been working on. Very excited about it. So anyway, this is Mike at reachkeep.com, all the way from Wyoming to wherever you may be. Trust you had a great holiday time, Christmas, and the rest of the holidays go well for you. We'll be back up here next week, maybe even into this week again, as we're kind of experimenting, trying to find out which nights and which days work well for you. If it's Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and it seems like the evenings seems to be the best time. But anyway, thank you much, and God bless you, and you have yourself a great one. Take care.